We have a special guest right now. This is Dr. Wayne Bailey from Arizona State University, and he has had a long and varied career. He's been the marching director director of the marching band at University of Colorado in Boulder, and he was my favorite boss of all time, the former director of the School of Music at Arizona State University, and he's been administrator at several institutions around the country before he came here. We're very lucky to have him now on our conducting faculty, and he's knowledgeable in so many things. So welcome here to the webcast.
Thank you, Sam.
And is it okay if I call you Wayne, boss?
Of course.
Okay, thanks. I'd like your take on what you're seeing here today as a longtime administrator and teacher, conductor, and marching band teacher. How's things going in Arizona right now?
Well, I think the next band to perform is see from today, and the most important thing I think about today is the activity itself. We're here with our younger students who are getting expert opinions from the judges who are around our state, our region, and sometimes from around the nation, hearing comments from experts. They're also they're getting to perform in a great stadium, in a great venue. They're going to hear a terrific university marching band later tonight, and the whole activity is just such a great educational activity for them, a great experience.
When students, in the times that we're living right now, it's very hard to keep the door open in a band room. Yet you see the level of enthusiasm here, and the amount of work to put on one of these shows is massive.
Sure.
I would like for you, if you could stay with us for a few minutes,
of course,
to comment on the general idea of what a high school student gets out of going out in the field and staying on the line like they are right now. You know, it's like such exacting work. And who takes this up, and what do they get? What's the takeaway from being in marching band?
Well, of course, the activity itself, it is such a diverse activity. It combines musicianship with athleticism, with discipline, with teamwork, in a diverse environment. And it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It is the social life of a lot of kids. We call them band geeks, and some kids call them bandos. But there are people. The reason we have such a big band, I believe, at Arizona State is people don't want to stop the connections that they made in high school band. They come and they know that college could be the same way if they can make those friends and keep that as their circle during their studies. It's an awesome thing. We're about to see a show start here. This is Cibola High School. And our guest on the webcast here of ASU Band Day is Dr. Wayne Bailey, who's an expert at all of these things. The music, the marching band aspect of it, the outdoor aspect of it, and he's also an administrator at the college level for years. Let's talk about design teams. Like, how do you put together something like we saw just now?
Right. One of the things as we were watching the last several bands here that struck me was they began their design process, obviously, with picking great music. We just heard composers like Bach, Beethoven, Bernstein, Gustav Holst with this last group. So in putting together the show, the designers begin with the musical idea. And then when they pull their team together, their visual team together, they're all working from the music itself first, from the climactic moments, the form of the music, how the music might be best visually displayed.
Right. Okay, you come with the musical idea. You know that I've done this before, but you're my favorite explainer of things. So you come in with the musical idea, the visual people get involved, and then there's this thing, and it's creation by committee. And we're used to things like choreographers and composers. This sounds a lot more like Broadway to me. In other words, when a team gets together to make a movie or Broadway or musicals. So this is something that we don't think about. A bunch of creative people that are very opinionated sitting in a room together and coming to agreement. That's a real eye-opener for me when I started doing things in this field. How do they get along?
Well, there always has to be one person, just like a Broadway show, that ultimately has to make a decision. But if that person is doing their job well, just like administrating anything, they will pick a team of people who are very talented, who have great ideas, bring those ideas together, and it's that person that's in charge, and in our case here, it's the band director at the school, usually. It's that person's decision then to pull together the main idea and draw from all of these ideas of the team, and in the end, make sure all of those things are meshing together. And as you know, during the course of the season, the shows evolve. We don't put a show out here the first week of August
right.
that stays exactly the same all the way to the middle of November. As we do various shows, and we can take a look at them and say, well, that's not working quite well. Let's go back to the design team. Let's go back to the choreographer and say, what else can we do that might be more visually appealing? And that's one of the reasons we have competitions throughout the season. We take the judges' comments and then make some changes as our show progresses. So, for the parents watching, you might think about this as a progression during the course of the season here. The show really should change and evolve, because that means that the director and the design team are looking at what works, what doesn't work, and trying to build their show and make it stronger as the season goes along.
That's awesome. I think the only thing we have on the 1st of August is a lot of hope. All over the country, it's the same way. It's like our hope this works. But the other part that you just mentioned is the concept of rewrites. And when people are young and they spend a lot of hours creating or ruminating on something and finally getting it created, then they start to feel ownership of their idea. And that's a big one for young people to learn, that you've got to give it up sometime for the benefit of the whole. And that's a huge learning process, and why we're lucky in our area to have so many active high schools, that you can learn to do this instead of on the big stage in a smaller division, coming up to Division I later on, to 5A and that sort of thing, because that's a hard thing to give up your ego.
Right, and as each of the design team member really does have to do that sometime during the course of a year. I remember I used to do a lot of arrangements for various marching bands around the country, and I was always surprised when something didn't quite work out the way I thought it was going to sound right, and I hear from the director who say, this doesn't quite work, can you do something different? And you're right, you have to give up on that of, oh, this is my idea, and adjust it to what will work with that particular group of kids.
Right. The thing we haven't talked about, and as we're going, Buena High School and from Division I is starting to take the field, we've got some time still, but how long it takes to do one of these. When I was a young music student growing up in Miami, I was watching the Orange Bowl game one night, which is on what used to be on New Year's Day, and they said that they'll start planning next year's Orange Bowl festivities tomorrow. On the 2nd of January, they would start talking about the next year. It's like it was a shocker for me. And then I realized it takes a long time to do this.
And that's too late for I guarantee you, our directors that are competing today have already thought about next year.
That's awesome.
They're thinking about next year's show now while they're trying to perform this one, and then their design team will start right after the season finishes here. The design team will start putting things together so that by the time these kids go to band camp in late July or first part of August, most of the primary ideas will be in place.
That's just awesome. I can't thank you enough for visiting us today. And why have an ASU Band Day without one of the real Mr. ASUs? Dr. Wayne Bailey, thank you for doing this today.